Let's read this verse one more time. Psalm 27, verse 4. Everybody, one thing I have asked from the Lord, one thing. What is that one thing? That I shall seek. One purpose in life, intimacy with God. That, everybody read, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life. One primary preoccupation all the days of my life. What else? To behold the beauty of the Lord and to meditate in His temple. One passion, God. What is the reward of intimacy with God? The reward is God Himself. Until you and I realize the greatest blessing is God Himself. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be going through life pursuing all other things except the most important thing, the pursuit of intimacy with God. If you are intimate with God, everything else will follow. If you love God, you will trust Him. If you love God, you will what? Serve Him. Let me repeat. Intimacy with God means what? You know Him. When you know God, will you trust Him? Some of us don't know God. That's why you have a hard time trusting Him. You have a hard time surrendering your life because you don't know God. Pursue intimacy. If you know God, you will love Him. If you know God, you will trust Him. If you know God, you will serve Him. Everything else will follow. Pursue intimacy with God. Can you turn to your neighbor one more time? Look at your neighbor's eyes. Tell them, pursue intimacy with God. Now, what's our problem? This is the problem. Everybody, let's read this. The greatest enemy of hunger for God is not poison, but apple pie. Ano ba ibig sabihin nun? Let me explain. John Piper said, it is not the banquet of the wicked that dulls our appetite for heaven, but endless nibbling at the table of the world that leaves us so full that we have no appetite left for God. We are full of small stuff that we have no room for the big stuff, God. You see, what he's talking about is this. The enemy of falling in love with God is not the bad things of life. It is not. You'll be amazed. In the Bible, the biggest problem is not enemies of God. Sometimes the biggest problem are the gifts of God, the blessings of God. Let me give you an example. What will prevent you from loving God? You will be amazed. Why? I want to introduce to you the discipline of fasting and praying. But first, let me tell you the problem. Let's read this together. Luke 14, verse 18 to 20. They all alike began to make excuses. Now, the story is very simple. The king invited the people. He sent out invitation for them to have a banquet with him. The king wanted intimacy with his people. Can you imagine you are invited by the king to have dinner, to have fellowship, to have intimacy? Now, here are the excuses. Excuse number one. The first one said to him, I bought a piece of land and I need to go out and look at it. Please consider me excused. There's nothing wrong with land. It's a blessing to have land. But can you imagine land can prevent you from experiencing intimacy with God? Look at the next excuse. Another one said, I bought 5 yoke of oxen. I'm going to try them out. Please consider me excused. There's nothing wrong with oxen. There's nothing wrong with cows. These are blessings of God. But the blessing of God can prevent you from experiencing intimacy with God. Look at the next one. Another one said, I have married a wife. Just this lunchtime, one of our members got married. Nothing wrong with marriage. Nothing wrong with family. Look at the reason. For that reason, I cannot come. In other words, here is the warning. The blessings of God can become your idol. You see, when you see the word idolatry, don't think of statue, don't think of stone, don't think of images only. There are many other forms of idolatry. Anything that takes the place of God in your life. Anything that becomes more important, that's more precious, that's idolatry. And somebody once said, once the good things of life become your idol, it is unrecognizable.